I would never forget my granddaughter calling me, telling me that her mother had got. I would never forget those screams. I would never.
It started with something so small, so ordinary, that most of us wouldn't even remember it by the end of the day. A simple moment of courtesy, a woman holding a door open for another. But that tiny everyday act would end in one of the most shocking and senseless murders Dallas has seen in years. This is the story of Cecilia Simpson. Before we dive in, take a second to like this video, subscribe to The Silent Witness, and click the bell icon. Not just because it helps the channel, but because stories like this deserve to be heard, to remind us how fragile life really is, and how quickly a single decision can change everything. Cecilia Simpson was 41 years old, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and a woman who, according to friends, was kind, straightforward, and didn't like trouble. She was the type who believed in doing the right thing, even in small gestures like holding doors or saying thank you. She was spending the afternoon out with her daughter, running errands and probably thinking about getting back home to dinner, laughter, and the kind of normal that we all take for granted. But normal disappeared that day, October 7th, 2025. It was early afternoon, sunny, calm, one of those quiet Dallas days. Cecilia and her daughter had just finished shopping at a store called Five Below inside the Wheatland Towne Crossing shopping center. As they were leaving, Cecilia did what most of us would do. She held the door open for another woman walking behind her. That woman was 22-year-old Keona Zachyua Hampton. Now, holding the door open is such a small thing, but when the door closed behind them, Keona didn't say, "Thank you." Maybe she was distracted, maybe she didn't hear, or maybe she just didn't care. But to Cecilia, it was rude. Maybe she felt disrespected. Maybe it was just one of those moments when a small thing hits the wrong nerve. Whatever the reason, words were exchanged. What started as a small misunderstanding began to grow into something much darker. Witnesses said the two women started arguing outside the store. Voices rose. Words were thrown like weapons. And somewhere in that heated moment, something changed in the air. Anger took over reason. Cecilia, feeling uncomfortable and probably sensing things were escalating, decided to walk away. She and her daughter went across the parking lot to another store, PetSmart, hoping to shake off the tension. But Keona followed them. Imagine that for a moment. You're out with your child, trying to calm down after a meaningless argument, and you realize the person you argue with is following you from store to store. The unease, the confusion, it must have been terrifying. Cecilia reportedly told employees inside PetSmart that someone was following her. She was looking for safety, maybe hoping someone would intervene. But Keona didn't stop. She walked into the same PetSmart, still angry, still pushing. The argument picked up again, this time inside the store. Employees quickly stepped in and told them both to leave. For a second, it looked like things would cool off. They walked out separately. Cecilia toward her car, Keona back to hers. But what happened next shattered that fragile hope completely. Keona, from a distance, hurled a bottle at Cecilia's car. That single action reignited everything. Cecilia got out of her car, furious, maybe scared, maybe just trying to defend herself and her daughter. Witnesses said she confronted Keona, telling her to leave. A fight broke out, quick, chaotic, desperate. Then, in the middle of it all, Keona pulled out a handgun. 3 shots. The sound echoed across the parking lot. Shoppers froze. Cecilia fell to ground, her daughter screaming beside her. Just like that, a mother's life, gone over something as small as a missing thank you. Keona ran. Police later found her during a traffic stop that evening, and she admitted to the shooting. She claimed she was trying to get Cecilia away from her. But how do you justify something like that? How do you turn an argument over manners into murder? And here's where the story turned from tragic to haunting. Because this wasn't just about anger. It was about how fragile human reactions can be. One second of pride, one spark of emotion, one refusal to walk away. You know, when you really think about it, how many times have you had moments like that? Someone cuts you off in traffic, bumps into you at the store, or forgets to say thank you. You get annoyed, maybe even snap back, but then you move on. because deep down you know it's not worth it. But for some reason on that day, in that parking lot, something inside both women just couldn't let go. When police arrived, they found Cecilia on the ground, bleeding out beside her car. Her daughter, just a child, was crying and screaming for help. Witnesses were stunned, frozen in disbelief. No one could understand how a simple argument turned into a life being stolen in broad daylight. Cecilia was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was too severe. She was pronounced dead shortly after. It's the kind of story that sticks with you, not because it's complicated, but because it's painfully simple. A single moment, a few angry words, and a family destroyed. And what's even harder to process is how cold it all seemed afterward. Keona didn't disappear. She didn't try to hide. Hours later, she was pulled over by police during a routine traffic stop. When questioned, she didn't deny it. She admitted to shooting Cecilia. She said she was trying to get her away. But think about that, trying to get someone away by pulling a trigger, by taking a life. It just doesn't make sense. People who knew Cecilia described her as kind-hearted and hard-working.
She was a person.
She loved her family. She loved big. She had a big heart.
She was a pharmacy technician, the kind of person who helped others daily. Her colleagues said she was dependable, someone you could always count on. Her family, heartbroken, said she wasn't the kind of person to seek out trouble.
Side of this horrible tragedy, she was a person who has kids and a family who loves her and will miss her.
It was all love. She showed her love in many ways. Even if you didn't take it, she showed her love.
She just wanted to enjoy her day with her daughter. And that's what makes this story so heartbreaking. Cecilia didn't wake up that morning thinking it would be her last. She didn't expect to become a headline or a cautionary tale. She just wanted to live, to laugh, to make it home safely like everyone else. After the shooting, the community was shaken. People gathered outside the shopping center, leaving flowers and candles near the spot where she fell. Strangers came together, united by shock, grief, and anger. Many said the same thing. It could have been anyone, because who hasn't argued before? Who hasn't felt disrespected or brushed off in a small moment? It's terrifying to realize that such a tiny, forgettable thing could spiral into something this dark. And it forces us to ask, what's happening to us? Why are tempers so short? Why is human life treated like it's disposable when pride gets in the way? Police later confirmed that the shooting was caught on surveillance cameras. The footage showed the confrontation and the moment Cecilia was shot. It's evidence that left little room for doubt. Keona was charged with murder and taken into custody. Her mugshot, emotionless and blank, spread across social media, fueling outrage and heartbreak. But beneath the headlines and anger, there's something deeper, a sadness that lingers. Because behind both women were lives, families, dreams, and people who loved them. Cecilia lost hers in an instant, and Keona threw hers away in that same moment. 2 lives destroyed because of pride, anger, and ego. People who were there said they'll never forget the look on Cecilia's daughter's face. Imagine being a child and watching your mother collapse in front of you, not from an accident, not from illness, but because someone got angry over missing thank you. That image alone is enough to break anyone's heart. And that's what gets me every time about this story, how senseless it is. Because when you strip away the details, this wasn't a crime about money or revenge or anything that made even a shred of sense. It was about ego. One word, one look, one moment where no one wanted to back down. Police officers at the scene were visibly shaken. They'd seen plenty of tragedies before, but this one felt different. One detective reportedly said, "You never think something this small could lead to this much blood." And he was right. The story spread fast, across Dallas, across Texas, across the country. People online couldn't believe it. Social media exploded with comments, debates, and disbelief. Some said it was proof that people have lost all sense of patience and respect. Others blamed the easy access to guns. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. It didn't have to end this way. As the investigation unfolded, police learned more about both women. Cecilia, as it turned out, had no history of violence, no criminal record. She was the type who kept to herself, who just wanted to provide for her family and live peacefully. On the other hand, Keona had been struggling. There were hints of frustration, past altercations, and emotional instability, but nothing that could have predicted this. Still, none of that justifies what she did. Pulling a gun over an argument is never self-defense. It's rage, pure and uncontrolled. And you know what's scary? Stories like this keep happening. Every year, we hear about people killed over parking spots, road rage, or simple misunderstandings. It's as if the world's fuse has gotten shorter, and the value of life keeps shrinking. The court later confirmed that Keona was facing a murder charge. The DA made it clear. This wasn't a fight gone wrong. It was an intentional act. She brought the gun. She pulled the trigger. And she took a mother away from her family. Forever. Meanwhile, Cecilia's family was left to pick up the pieces. Her daughter had to relive that nightmare in her mind. The sound of a gun, the fall, the silence after. Her loved ones gathered to plan a funeral no one ever imagined they'd have to plan. They started a small memorial page online, filled with pictures of her smiling, always smiling. The kind of person who seemed to brighten up a room. Her co-workers said they still expect to see her walk through the door at work, laughing and talking about her day. Her neighbors said she was the first to help anyone who needed a hand. And all that light, all that goodness, was wiped out in seconds. When you hear stories like this, it makes you wonder, what's really happening to us as a society? Why is kindness seen as weakness? Why do people feel the need to prove something in every disagreement? It's haunting, isn't it? How a simple thank you, or the lack of it, turned into the trigger for tragedy. You know, the more you think about this case, the harder it is to wrap your head around it. How can a life end over something that should have lasted only a few seconds of irritation? Most of us have been there. Someone's rude, and we feel that spark of annoyance. Maybe you mutter something under your breath, or roll your eyes, but you move on, right? Cecilia never got that chance. That small, human moment that should have been forgettable turned into her final one. Her story forces us to look in the mirror. What would you have done in that situation? Would you have spoken up if someone ignored your kindness? Or would you have stayed quiet and walked away? The truth is, none of us ever really know how quickly a normal day can spin out of control until it happens. After the incident, the police investigation uncovered more about the moments leading up to the shooting. Surveillance footage from PetSmart and nearby stores helped piece together the timeline. You can actually see Cecilia walking calmly with her daughter, try to avoid any more confrontation. You can see her glancing over her shoulder, realizing that Keona was still following them. That's not just anger, that's fear. She knew something wasn't right. When officers arrested Keona later that evening, they described her as emotionless, detached, like what had just happened hadn't sunk in yet. She told them she felt threatened, that she acted out of fear. But even her own words didn't line up with the evidence. Witnesses said Cecilia never approached her aggressively, that she was trying to protect her daughter and leave the scene.
If I could just hug that daughter, I just feel so bad for her, and I just want her to know that I did everything I could. Those other people did everything they could. And
still, 3 bullets ended everything. In the days that followed, the community's grief turned to outrage. People flooded social media with posts about manners, respect, and how society seems to be losing both. Some said it was a lesson about controlling anger. Others said it showed just how easily firearms can escalate a situation. But beyond the debates and opinions, there was one thing everyone could agree on: a child should never have to watch their mother die like that. And that's what makes this story so gut-wrenching.
What was she thinking? What was going through her mind? Why did she have to follow my mom? What provoked her to continue to engage with my mom? What drove her to do that? It's crazy, you know, because one day you wake up with your mom next to your side, and the next day it's quiet. You know, you can't see her no more.
She had plans, real plans, to advance her career, take her daughter on a trip, and start a small business on the side. All those dreams disappeared because someone couldn't manage their temper. And that's the part that really hits you, how random it all was. It's almost like fate handed them that moment and said, here's a choice. But instead of walking away, pride took over. And once that gun was pulled, there was no going back. Even now, people still visit the parking lot where it happened. There's a small memorial with flowers, candles, and photos of Cecilia smiling. Some leave notes that read, "You didn't deserve this." Others write, "Thank you for reminding us to choose peace." It's heartbreaking but powerful, a reminder that one act of violence can echo far beyond the moment it happened. So let me ask you, if you were in Cecilia's shoes that day, would you have reacted differently? Or if you were in Keona's, could you have stopped yourself before things went too far? It's uncomfortable to think about, but that's exactly why we should. You know, when stories like this hit the news, they stay with you, not just because of the tragedy itself, but because they reveal something deeper about who we are becoming as people. It's like every headline these days reminds us how close the line between reason and rage has become. And when you really think about it, Cecilia's story isn't just about one woman's death. It's about how easily humanity can slip when emotion takes control. The investigation into Cecilia's death is still unfolding, and the case hasn't yet reached the courtroom. But when it does, the world will be watching, and so will we. What led to that tragic moment? What will the evidence reveal? And will justice truly be served for Cecilia and her family? We'll be following every update closely, bringing you the details as they come to light. So if you've been moved by Cecilia's story, make sure you stay with us, because this is far from over. Sometimes, the most ordinary moments reveal how fragile life really is. And before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to The Silent Witness, and click that bell icon, not for the algorithm, but to keep stories like Cecilia's alive. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply remember